So guys, Jalen Carter still doesn't have his extension, and there's silence from Howie Roseman too. Now look, on the surface, that might not seem like a big deal. Players go without deals all the time, but here's the thing. When Howie wants to keep a player, he doesn't wait this long. That's not how he does business. Then, during mandatory minicamp, we got updates that Carter showed up, but he only ran individual drills. He sat out every single team drill. Nobody's officially said why. So, it seems like something fishy is going on here, and the reasons behind all this drama are more frustrating than it seems at first glance. I will explain everything to you, along with one insider report that the Eagles are still chasing Maxx Crosby. Let's deep dive in. What's up, Eagles? Welcome to the NFL Playbook, Eagles. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Now, let's start with what actually happened on the field last year, because that's really where this whole situation begins. Jalen Carter came into the 2023 season as one of the most talented defensive tackles in football. We're talking about a guy who, when healthy, can completely collapse a pocket by himself, the kind of interior pressure that changes how an entire offense has to game plan. But healthy is the key word there, because last season he wasn't. It started before he even played a single snap. Carter got ejected from the very first game of the season for spitting on Dak Prescott, which meant Eagles Nation didn't even get to see him on the field in Week 1. From there, things didn't really get better. He battled shoulder issues basically all year long, the kind that needed PRP shots in both shoulders just to keep him on the field at all. By the time the dust settled, Carter had only played in 11 regular season games out of 17, and his production reflected it, 3.5 sacks. And just for the context, let me tell you that his career pace sits right around 1 sack every 3 games. This season, he was producing at less than half that rate. For a guy with his anchor strength and gap discipline at his best, that's not a guy declining. That's a guy who physically wasn't right, and it showed up everywhere in the numbers. Now look, I want to be fair here. The shoulder stuff, that's not on him. Injuries happen, and you can't fault the guy for getting hurt. But the ejection, that's different. That's a discipline issue, and if you combine it with a season this limited, it's just not the kind of year you want to be having right before you walk into extension talks asking to be the highest paid guy at your position. And now let's talk about the money, because this is where things get real. Carter's side is reportedly seeking a deal in the 3 to 4 year range, worth over $100 million total, somewhere around $33 million a year. Now think about that for a second. $33 million a year, that would edge right past Chris Jones, who currently holds the record at just under $32 million annually. That's not just a raise, that's a market resetting deal. That's Carter asking to become the highest paid defensive tackle in NFL history, off the back of his worst statistical season as a pro. And here's where I keep coming back to this. If Carter doesn't get the new deal right now, he's still under contract through the 5th-year option, set to make $27.1 million in 2027. So, the Eagles aren't desperate here. They have him locked up either way. The only question is whether they want to commit to the long-term, market-setting number now, or make him prove it first on the field. So why the silence? This is where I think the national insiders actually back up exactly what we've been feeling here. Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated put it pretty bluntly. He said paying Carter is a risk, and the Eagles know it, and they're going to be cautious moving forward. He also said if they do get a deal done, it's probably going to come loaded with protections, meaning less guaranteed money up front, more performance-based language built in. That's not the kind of contract you give a guy you're fully confident in without question. That's the kind of contract you give a guy you're still watching closely. And honestly, there was even a moment a while back that kind of foreshadowed all this. There's an old clip floating around of owner Jeffrey Lurie getting asked about a contract decision, and for a second, he genuinely seemed to think the question was about Carter instead of Jalen Hurts. And his response was something like, "We need to see the guy be a little more consistent." Now, once it got cleared up that they meant Hurts, that line stuck with a lot of people, because whether he meant to or not, that's exactly the hesitation we're seeing play out right now in real time. And look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend Carter's talent isn't real, because it absolutely is. When healthy, he's a problem for any offensive line in football, and this city knows that better than anyone after what he showed during that Super Bowl run. That's not the debate. The debate is whether the Eagles trust the version of him they're going to get going forward. And when you look at how this front office is operated, that doubt makes a lot of sense. Remember, Jordan Davis. The Eagles had him on the roster too, and even though Carter arguably had the better overall resume, it was Davis whose future security got locked in first when Howie picked up his option without hesitation. That's not random. That's Howie showing you exactly how he's grading this room right now. Now you might be thinking, isn't this just a normal contract negotiation? Happens every single offseason, right? But here's the thing, Howie Roseman doesn't usually let this drag. Going back years, when this front office wants to lock a guy in, they move early, before the price even goes up. That's how they've operated with their core guys for almost a decade now. So, the fact that we're sitting here in the middle of June with no movement, that's not Howie being slow. That's Howie being deliberate, and Eagles fans know the difference. And that minicamp absence we talked about earlier, that's not just a coincidence anymore either. Carter is doing individual work, but sitting out every team drill right in the middle of all this contract uncertainty, which lines up exactly with what you'd expect if there's real tension behind the scenes. Some have even floated the idea that if things stay stuck, Howie wouldn't just let Carter walk for nothing in free agency down the line, he'd trade him instead, with numbers like 2 first-round picks getting thrown around. Now, personally, I think that price is way too steep for anybody to actually pay, but the fact that trade talk is even part of the conversation tells you how unsettled this whole situation really is. But there's one more piece to this, and once you hear it, I think it changes how you look at this entire thing. Right alongside all this Carter drama, there's a brand new update on Maxx Crosby. Raiders insider Hondo Carpenter, a journalist, reported that interest in Crosby right now is, quote, nuclear hot, and named the Eagles as one of the two teams leading that charge alongside the 49ers. Now, to be clear, Carpenter himself said that doesn't mean a trade is imminent, and it doesn't mean Crosby is asking out. It just means the interest is real enough to make it a legitimate subject. Crosby is still working back from off-season knee surgery, and a deal already fell through once before with the Ravens, where the asking price reportedly sat around 2 first-round picks. So, this isn't a guarantee by any means, and that price tag alone makes it complicated. But here's why I think this city should still be paying attention. The Eagles already committed real money to Jonathan Greenard this offseason, plus they've got extensions for Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean coming down the pipeline too. So if Philadelphia is even thinking about a Crosby move, it would almost have to involve sending out a player like Nolan Smith or Jihad Campbell in a package just to make the math work on the cap. That's a real cost, not a small one. There's actually a scheme argument buried in here too that I think matters. Some people will tell you Vic Fangio's defense doesn't need an interior piece like Carter as badly as it needs a true difference maker off the edge, because if you can't pressure the quarterback from outside, it doesn't matter who you've got underneath in coverage, they're going to get beat eventually. I don't fully buy that Carter is replaceable, his anchor strength inside is real, and it opens things up for everybody else. But I do think it explains why Howie might value adding a Crosby type more than he values overpaying a banged-up interior piece coming off his worst year. So, when you think about it, it actually starts to make sense why the front office might be playing it cool with Carter right now. The NFC is loading up on pass rushers all around them. Micah Parsons is in Green Bay now. Myles Garrett is with the Rams. If Philadelphia is going to keep pace in that arms race, adding a proven healthy difference maker like Crosby might matter more right now than locking in a long-term market resetting deal for a guy who just had his most inconsistent season as a pro. So when you put it all together, the silence, the minicamp absence, the Jordan Davis precedent, that old Lurie clip, and now this Crosby smoke, it really does feel like the front office is weighing two different paths here. Pay Carter big right now off a down year, or stay patient, see how he responds, and keep their options open on the edge. That's the real story behind all this fishy business, and it's bigger than just one contract. Now look, none of this is set in stone yet. No trade, no extension. A lot of this is still speculation built on real reporting. I'm not going to act like Crosby to Philly is a done deal because it's not. But that's exactly why it's worth watching closely heading into camp. Whatever direction Howie goes, I trust this front office because they've earned that trust over the years. That's where I'm at with it. Eagles Nation. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know what you think. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button because we talk Eagles every single day. Fly, Eagles, fly.